Ok, hello, hello. Aquí yo estoy con el Brooklyn Borough President, Antonio Reynoso, who is also a friend of Cafecito Break. But we also have another thing in common. We got the hood in common.
Yeah, we do. We're Williamsburg, South Side, born and raised. So always happy to hang out with you, you know that. And excited to get into this break and hear from all of your fans and just the people that you're surrounded by, because I like to get into difficult conversations and really impress upon people how much the same we are and always keeping it positive. So let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. And okay, since we're putting all the cards on the table,
Yes.
I'm just going to say, first of all, I want to say congratulations to
Yes.
you. Antonio Reynoso, Brooklyn Borough President, is currently running for Congress. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so, you know, I really feel that Zohran Mamdani, our mayor, and Kathy Hochul, our governor, whether or not I agree on how they want to get there, I agree that they're both people that are looking out for the interests of the working poor and the working class. Where I think all of our headaches are coming from, personally, are from the federal government. Every time I open a page, it's war with Iran. Tariffs that are making lives, things more expensive here than what they need to be. ICE, is something that I have huge issues with in this race, and I think there's a small group of people that are benefiting from this system and are making tons of money and are perfectly fine, while the rest of us are here struggling. So I want to go to the federal government and fight and push back. And I say it all the time. It's not only Republicans and Trump. I want to go after corporate Democrats too. I think too many people are focused on the interests of the rich or interests of the well-connected, the people that have those interests versus the people that they represent. And I want to go to Congress to be able to fight back and push back against those powers, like I always have. But I don't want to just be a noisemaker, un bulloso,
Right.
que nada más quiere performative. I want to show that I'm an effective legislator. I can pass laws. I can move things. I can show people to fall in love with taking care of the middle class again. That's the type of work that I want to do. So I'm out here grinding away, hoping that come June 23rd, I'll be the Democratic candidate, but hopefully by January 1st, I'll be the next congressman of this district.
Well, congratulations to you. You're running an excellent campaign, and you mentioned a couple of things. A lot of us who live in New York City, who love Brooklyn the way that we do, that we don't like the way the city and the leadership overall has been moving, and so. And and to your point, it's on all sides, right? And what I'm seeing out there as someone who spends so much time interviewing New Yorkers is people are tired of the politicians that have been embedded in either party that have clearly sold out their people across the board. And so then when I talk to Republicans and conservatives and independents, they're equally unhappy. They feel like the middle class, the people who are working, the people who are going to the supermarket and being like, how the heck am I going to buy groceries today? Like, how is the state this much money?
But I think that, I talk about this stat, and this is like facts. I'm only talking facts, no politics, is that over the last 5 years, we've seen the greatest wealth transfer to the top 1% of this country in its history. And when I think about that, I think about like J.P. Morgan. I think about, like folks that owned steam trains, like the people that built America back in those days, and the amount of wealth they had to have. Mm-hmm. And that in that time, they didn't see a greater wealth transfer than what we're seeing right now. And when I say 5 years, that means it's not only Trump, right? It's not a Republican issue. It happened under Biden as well. Mm-hmm. So we start putting things together and start seeing that we're so polarized, and we want this fiefdom for Trump or for Zohran or for. It's not the conversation we should be having. It's about, does this country work for the majority of its people? And it just does not work for us. The average home cost in Brooklyn is $1.2 million. They told us when we were young that if we worked hard and we did everything right, we would be able to buy a house, maybe get a car, raise a family, and retire happy. We can't do almost any of that in Brooklyn because everything is so expensive. And it doesn't seem like anybody in the federal government is attacking this issue with the energy that I think with the energy that we need. We don't need like half-stepping, oh, we're going to give you a $250 rebate. I don't need a $250 rebate.
What's that gonna do?
I need my house to go down $250,000 so that I can make it, so I can make it work. So I think what you're starting to see now more than ever is a unification between exhausted Americans.
Yes.
And they don't know if it's the Republican Party, the Democratic Party. For them, it's just like, we need to fix it. And when those things happen, you get Trumps, you get Zohran Mamdanis, because I think I told you this before, people are not looking for folks that know how to make things better. They're looking for folks that can make things different. We don't want you to know how this system works and be really good at moving through it. They want people that are going to think completely outside of the box, because the system that we have and the incremental change that we see is not enough to give us a good life here in America.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think outside of the box. I was there at the Marqueta for Mayor Mamdani's press conference that he's announcing the first city-owned grocery store. And as somebody who owned a small business, yeah, you're not a grocery store, but I just feel like, how is this a good idea? And then when I see $30 million price tag to build something when there's so many empty places already, I'm like, I'm not denying food insecurities. I'm not denying the inflation. I'm not denying the need. Yeah. But is that the way you move to spend $30 million? So what I'm saying is, I think that the New Yorkers are seeing the writing on the wall, and they're paying attention to politics and candidates more. Yeah. And I agree with you, I don't want to say middle of the road, but common sense is taking, like, it's catching a lot of people's eyes, where people are saying, you know, I don't know if it's just enough to look at whether there's a D, an I, an R, or whatever in the name. What does that candidate represent? Yeah. Now, you're running against someone that Mamdani endorsed, but this person that I'm aware of doesn't really have experience. I've known you for several years. I've seen you everywhere. Every single time there's an event, or whether it's a weather anomaly, or that happens out of the blue, or a crisis in Brooklyn, I've always seen you respond immediately. And even if it's not to your benefit, you're like, this problem landed on our doorstep, we're gonna have to handle it like we do as Brooklyn.
Well, look, we're gonna have to make a decision, because my conversation here is that I believe I have activist energy, and I came from the activism world when I started in politics, but I know how to get things done, and that experience is deeply important. I'm not a person that came to the city council, did the bare minimum, right, and then walked away. I'm the first progressive borough president in its history, but I'm also the first Latino, the youngest elected to a 4-year term, and those things didn't happen by mistake. It happens because I feel like I have the pulse of my people, my neighborhood where I grew up. And trust me, it's not always perfect. I remember I added a bike rack on the block I grew up in on Hughes. And Fernando, my neighbor from there, him and Victoria, his wife, they were screaming at me. They're like, oh, he's part. Now, they're not as angry about it. But one thing people know me for is for like enacting change, willing to put my neck on the line, but also learning. I want to say this, that I really feel like I'm a student of the game. And today I might know something, but tomorrow with new data and information, I'm willing to like have a conversation. And I don't think enough people are doing that right now. The politics of when I started were different. Mm-hmm. I think about Joe Borelli is a council member from Staten Island. We would argue on the dais about whatever issue. And then we'll go get some beers down the street, because we liked each other and we respected each other. We just felt like we wanted to get to the same place a different way. Right. And we've lost our ability to do that. And I think that the American people are clamoring for just some level of cooperation by people so we can start fixing the problem. And I think what's going to unite us is not a party fight, but a class warfare. And I think that's what you're going to see, is that the Republicans and Democrats and independents alike do see that they're struggling while some people are doing really well. And I think that's going to start connecting with people in a real way.
So let me ask you something, because I agree with you. As somebody who lost a small business, we had to close it in 2022 after 9 years because we just weren't essential. You know, the COVID mandates knocked us out. But we did see certain stores were deemed essential. That the big mom.
Yes.
Not the big mom and pops, but like the big corporate stores,
absolutely.
I guess maybe like Amazon's, they were open, right? And they made a whole bunch of money. So here's my question. I agree with you as a class warfare. But like when we say tax the rich, how do we make sure that we, like however the details manifest, don't end up taking away, let's say you inherited a building that's worth 10 million. You know, from the legacy of your family. How do we ensure that doesn't get lost in the sauce?
I think the conversation for taxing the rich is this. First is who we focus on, right, and who we're targeting. Right now, Amazon, and I don't know the exact number, but it's above $60 billion in profit. That's how much they made. Jeff Bezos doesn't pay more taxes than you do. He pays less taxes than I do. And I think that's absolutely absurd, because a significant part of his workforce are on food stamps, are on welfare, are on Section 8. So they're getting subsidized. We're subsidizing the workers of a multi-billion-dollar corporation that's making record profits. That is I think that's the injustice that we see. The least you should be able to do is pay your workers a salary that makes it so that they don't have to be on benefits if you're making billions of dollars in profit, right? So the first thing is, how do we tax Bezos? How do we make it so that he pays his fair share? So what we don't do in this country is we don't tax wealth, we tax income. And that's the first problem we have. Is Jeff Bezos worth $68 billion, but his income was $100,000 last year. And like we can't, you know, he's writing off yachts and things like that. So we have to have a different conversation about how it is we attack Jeff Bezos. And I think that's what the central point of taxing the rich is. These conversations about increasing property taxes,
or death tax.
I think those are more extreme cases that I think makes us lose the middle class and a significant, like this big tent opportunity that we have. Like $250,000 is not, we shouldn't be talking about those people at all. That's not
when I was making the good monies and MTV, I was also living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, with a mortgage and everything and the cars, but paycheck to paycheck. So this is an expensive city to thrive in.
We should, and I agree. I think we should be very careful about who we're targeting. I don't think it should be a middle class conversation. I don't think it should be about property taxes. It's about taxing the rich. My proposal that I came out with for taxing the rich is taxing wealth at $50 million. If you make $50 million, we're going to tax you 5%. If you make $250 million, we're going to tax you at 10%. That's still less of a percentage than I get taxed by the city, state, and federal tax rate. They're still going to get taxed less.
I may not have a problem with that, but I tell you, if God ever blesses me with many millions, I'm going to be looking at all the little, like,
You're fine. You know why? Because you're going to be fine because...
No, yeah, I'm from the community.
Everything above 50. So let's say this, if you make 55 million, we're only going to take 5% of the 5 million. The 50 is yours. But at that point, it's just, you're so rich that it just doesn't matter anymore.
Now here's my thing, right? Because I understand that argument, but here's where I have a problem. I don't trust the people managing the money. Like, okay, like with congestion pricing, like it was like they told us congestion pricing is happening so that we could funnel it or like for the MTA. And I know things take time, projects take time, but what is happening with the MTA? The last time que estaba lloviendo, some of the MTA subways were unrideable.
I would say this though. The upgrades are happening at the MTA all over. We're including elevators. They're fixing stations left and right. They're repainting them. If you go on the Broadway right now in Williamsburg, you see all that mess. Now they're scratching off all the paint, taking off all the lead, and they're sanding it down, and they're gonna paint the whole thing from Broadway all the way from Williamsburg Bridge down to East New York. They're doing that work. So the work is gonna get done. But I would say this is that if we don't tax the rich, they're gonna tax you. You're getting taxed every single day because you gotta understand that people think that we gotta spend time. I don't spend time taking care of rich people. They don't have real problems. We have real problems. And when you don't do that, The people that don't benefit from it means you pay $3 for a toll. That's what you're paying for the toll. If we tax the rich, maybe that toll is $2.50. But we want to have a conversation. Every time you don't tax the rich, you're paying for something extra. You're paying the 9% congestion pricing fee. That's what you're going to pay for.
So I will say, okay, we need to put, just a random question, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that there should be like budgeting 101 for people who are managing budgets in leadership?
I think we could have a conversation about like financial literacy. But I want to talk about, I think that financial literacy is a myth put forth by rich people to try to tell us that we're not rich because we don't know how to handle our money. Rich people have so much money, they don't need to know how to manage it. If they don't.
I mean, look, I used to handle the budgets for MTV, and they would get upset for me wanting to pay somebody, but yet all of a sudden they have money for catering. And so then these are things where I'm like, no, you're mismanaging the budget, which is where I have a problem. It's like, if we have the money, like the $30 million for the food thing, can we use that money to really support the people that need it? Like things like that, like just thinking outside the box, you know?
It's hard to do. It's very hard to do. I would tell you this, that we want to manage everything well. We do. But, you know, the reason a lot of things are expensive in government is because of all the corruption during like Tammany Hall era, during the 1980s and 70s. You remember you used to be able to get an apartment by giving a politician like $3,000. They'll give you an apartment. We can't do that.
Those days.
Yeah.
Under the table.
Now, the good thing is that the city put forth a system that is like computer driven. Now you got to get online, apply for affordable housing, and hope a lottery hits. Back then you just needed to know the right politician. And those things, those systems have protected your tax dollars much better, but have made things more expensive. We have a procurement process problem in New York City, and we shouldn't be paying $5 million for one bathroom in a park. We shouldn't. And we haven't been able to square that. I hope that we're able to, because a lot of people were looking at New York like outside of New York. They want to invest here and push New Yorkers out. Yeah, we don't know how to. I want to be honest. It's a shock to me that no mayor has been able to figure out how to make things how to do things more efficiently, how to make things less expensive. And you're gonna see somebody like Zohran Mamdani would be the one to figure it out, because he's not a part of the system. So he goes in there with open eyes, and it's like, why are we paying $5 million for a park? And then they'll fix it.
Right.
This grocery store, the difference with the grocery store, and why I think I do want to talk about it a little bit, is it's about not giving people things for free, right? Like, what this story is that there's a group of people that feel like it's not dignified to stand on a line, even if you're hungry,
right,
even if you can't pay for it. And that shouldn't be why you can't eat the next day.
With you.
So you know what? Instead of you paying $10 for some rice, in this store is gonna be $5. It's still, you're gonna pay,
right,
but you're gonna pay at cost. Everything what the manufacturer says it to us for, we're gonna give it to you. And that's the idea, is that we're not subsidizing. The money that they're getting is not necessarily subsidizing product. It's building out the infrastructure, starting the initial phasing and money, the refrigeration you need to buy for food, and things like that. 30 million might be a little too much. I won't disagree with that. But I think the goal that we're trying to solve for is an affordable grocery store for people that are too dignified or don't feel dignified walking in a line to get free food, but don't have enough money to go to one of these corporate supermarkets and spend, Costco and spend $600 a month.
Yeah, la cosa está cara. Now, I want to be respectful of your time. A few more questions. How has it been being Brooklyn Borough President?
It's an amazing job. The first 2 years were tough, but now I feel like I got my mojo, to say the least. But this is an amazing borough, and it has amazing people. And one thing I learned from transitioning from city council to borough president is how different people are. I can't have the same conversation from Williamsburg to South Brooklyn. I can't tell the things I say to Sheepshead Bay, to Canarsie, or to Williamsburg, to Coney Island. Whole different worlds. And what I've been able to learn from my growth, I want to call it like my political growth, is I call it common denominators. Let me just find what we all agree on, and I want to work on that. We have enough. There's so much to do that let's just find what we all agree on and let's get it done. And I give one example of one of my greatest stories is Borough Park. It's a community that disagrees with me on maybe 85% of my politics. They don't agree on anything. I got 5% of the vote there. So I go to Borough Park, and they complain about their trash during Passover. Passover for them is like spring cleaning. And they're like, it's too much garbage in the street. I pay for a cleanup crew to go to Borough Park during Passover only, and they do 2 rounds of cleaning the streets. They love me in Borough Park. They disagree with me on all my politics. They're like, Antonio cleans our streets, we got him, because I didn't spend any time fighting with them and trying to convince them to agree on something that they're not going to agree on. But what do we agree on? You should have clean streets. Passover is tough. Let's make it happen.
Right.
And I learned that as a borough president in a way that I didn't have as a council member. As a council member, I was more committed to my ways. I was very focused on what I wanted to get done. Was very staunchly ideological. Now I'm more about finding a way to help the most amount of people that I possibly can with the position I have.
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
What does Brooklyn mean to you? What does being a son here in New York mean to you?
I feel like the most fortunate person to ever be born on this planet. I really do. To be born of immigrant parents in the greatest city in the world, in the greatest borough in the world, and to me, in the greatest neighborhood in the world. It's just something that you just can't make up. That is not something that 99.9% of this world doesn't have what I have. So I count my blessings. I thank God for my blessings. But because of how fortunate I am, I want to pay it forward. I just want to, my luck, how fortunate I am, I want to pay it back. I want to give it to the future little kids of this neighborhood growing up. But man, this borough is special. It's a very special borough.
You kind of answered. Maybe I was going to ask you about your dreams.
Well, look, I do dreams. My dream has changed through time now that I have kids. I just want my kids to be good. I don't know exactly what that looks like. I don't know if I'm going to be able to solve for it, but if my kids are good, that's my next step. My next job, I did what I had to do in the political world. I got married to a beautiful woman, a great wife. Now it's like, what do I do for my kids? How do I make their lives easier? How do I ensure that their future is strong? So my dream now is about taking care of Alejandro and Andres. That's the goal.
That is really beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Mi gente, do you see why I appreciate this man? Why we are fortunate to call him a friend?
Yeah.
This is a Republican talking to a Democrat, and the only reason I'm singling that out is because we're trying to show you that friendships and working together and loving Brooklyn and loving New York and your community is much bigger than what is at the what political party you identify yourself with.
We grew up in the same neighborhood. We grew up together, and how we grew up makes us more Brooklyn than anything else. And it's just like, because of that, I feel an affinity to you. I feel like a everlasting friendship, no matter what. We're from these neighborhoods. We grew up in these streets. We saw it all. And that connects us more than politics, more than anything else. So I'm always going to be here. You're my sister. I love you very much.
Same here.
I might disagree with you on some of these politics.
But doesn't family always kind of fight, but we could still be at the table together, right?
Every time I see you, you bring me joy every time I see you walk into a room. And I just want to keep at it. I'll keep being here. I'm your brother. Thank you so much for this.
Well, same here. I'm a proud sister in seeing you and your evolution. Mi gente, this man is running for Congress. Let's talk about voting. When's voting day for the primary?
June 23rd is voting day. June 13th is the first day of early voting. But June 23rd, mi gente, we have to come out. If we don't come out, we can lose this election. This is not a shoe-in. This is going to be a toss-up. So please come out, vote, and let's see what it looks like come June 23rd.
We got to support the people that care about our communities. Congratulations.
Gracias.
Mucha suerte.
All right.
All right, Rosangel Perez, Cafecito Break, our Gran Morelos with the Brooklyn Borough President.
Yeah.